What's up guys, Dennis here, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm finally sharing with you all my tips and tricks and all my secrets on how I make my iPhone videos look like they were shot on a cinema camera. In this video I'll be going over the best camera settings, what I actually use to record videos on my iPhone, how I color grade my videos, all the gear and accessories that I use and so on. I've been using the iPhone 17 Pro Max ever since it came out, and honestly the 17 Pro and the Pro Max series are probably the biggest upgrade that we've had in a while on an iPhone. This is the first time that we are able to record ProRes RAW videos in OpenGate on a phone. My professional cinema line camera cannot even shoot in OpenGate, and we now have it on a phone, which is crazy. And we now have the ability to shoot in Apple Log too, which gives you complete freedom when it comes to color grading and making your iPhone videos look like they were shot on a cinema camera. Like, honestly, in most cases, I'm not even able to tell the difference anymore between what was shot on an iPhone and what was shot on a camera. And just before we start the video, if you want to check out my new cinematic LUT pack designed specifically for the iPhone, you can do it right here. These LUTs will allow you to easily color grade your videos in just a few seconds and get the same professional cinematic look that I get in all my videos. It is just super convenient to have such a small yet powerful camera with you that you always carry with you anyway in your pocket, and that allows you to record these cinematic videos on the go without having to carry all the heavy and expensive camera gear. And I'm not saying that this will replace my camera in any way, but having a phone that's always with you and that allows you to record videos that look this good anytime that you want is honestly just a game changer. So let's talk about the best camera settings and everything else that there is to know to turn your iPhone into a cinema camera. And first, of course, we need to talk about the ProRes RAW. ProRes RAW is a video codec that records footage directly from the camera sensor in RAW format, giving you maximum control over exposure, white balance, color grading, and dynamic range in post-production. You can control all these settings later when editing without having to worry about all of that when shooting, which means that you can easily correct all of your mistakes if you don't know what you're doing. ProRes RAW also allows you to capture unprocessed sensor data rather than a processed baked-in image, which means that the sensor preserves a lot more information and allows for a better color grading experience, making the footage look like it was actually shot on a more expensive camera instead of the usual cheap and sharp look that you usually get on a phone. You also get better dynamic range and a better overall image quality, which sounds like the best option to use, right? But there are actually two big downsides. First, it takes up a lot of space, and honestly dealing with these massive files is just a nightmare. You need to always carry with you and record everything on external SSDs, and you'd probably need a lot of them, as 1 minute of ProRes RAW can easily take up to 20 GB of storage, which means around 1.2 TB per hour of footage, which is honestly a lot. So ProRes RAW might actually be overkill for most of the people out there. Another huge downside is that when you record videos using ProRes RAW, you don't have any internal stabilization, which means that the footage coming out of the iPhone is going to be super shaky. You can either try to fix that later in post by stabilizing it and hoping it'll do a good job, or you just need to use an external gimbal. So as you can see, ProRes RAW has its own pros and cons, and using it always might not be the best idea. What I personally do, and what I think is the best thing to do, is record videos using Apple ProRes 422, just a normal 422, or you can even do 422 LT if you want to save up even more space. And always use the Apple Log 2 picture profile. This way the file sizes are not huge, and you also get internal stabilization, which for me is probably the biggest advantage. So the best settings that I would suggest using is Apple ProRes 422 in Apple Log 2. Recording all your videos in Apple Log 2 will also give you complete freedom when it comes to color grading your videos, and that's actually what's going to make the biggest difference. When you record the video using the native camera app and using the standard picture profile, the videos that you're gonna get are already processed, and you also get this artificial sharpness, and you can actually tell that this video was shot on a phone, as it doesn't really look that cinematic. But when you record in Apple Log 2, you can manually decide which colors you want to bring back to life and go for a certain look that you have in mind, for example. What I do to color grade my videos is using my cinematic LUTs designed specifically for the iPhone, as these will give me the look that I want in just a few seconds, as I have already spent months developing imperfection in these. So I don't have to manually color grade every single clip every single time. I just apply one of these 10 LUTs depending on the look that I'm after, and it just gets the job done. So when you record your videos using all these settings and you do a proper color grade, I find that it's honestly really hard to tell whether that footage was shot on an iPhone or on a more professional camera. When it comes to the resolution, it's pretty easy. I would just leave it at 4K, but if you're someone who also makes content for social media like me, for example, then I would highly suggest shooting in OpenGate, as this will give you much more space later when cropping. This way you get a bit of both. You can use it for your 16:9 videos, or you can slightly crop it to a vertical format without losing too many details for your social media content. Next, let's talk about the camera gear and accessories. The best investment that you can make if you want to start making cinematic videos on your iPhone is getting an ND filter. This will allow you to keep the shutter speed down if you want to achieve a natural cinematic motion blur and follow the 180-degree rule, and it will also make shooting in harsh daylight so much easier. I've been using the filters from Freewell as these guys just make the best filters out there. This is a magnetic VND and it's honestly the best filter that you can get for your iPhone. You also need to use one of their cases as this variable ND filter is magnetic and it just easily snaps on the back of your phone, just like that. And since this case is a bit heavier than a normal one, you really get that feeling of having a little pro camera in your hands. It's super easy to use, you can easily attach and detach it in just a few seconds since it's magnetic, and you can easily rotate it to adjust the intensity of the filter. It will just make shooting in harsh daylight and sunny weather conditions just so much easier. Next, we have external SSD drives. To be able to record videos in ProRes or ProRes RAW or even in OpenGate, you need to use an external SSD drive because the file sizes are really huge. Not to mention that if you want to record videos in 60 frames per second or 120 in ProRes, you need to use an external drive. You cannot do that on your internal storage, so getting an SSD is kind of a must. I would highly recommend getting one from Lexar as these are just super reliable, like the Pro Go 1TB, and it's also super small and compact, and it simply attaches to the bottom of your phone, keeping your entire setup super small and super light. Not to mention that all of your files will be stored safely directly on the SSD and are always ready to be plugged in into your computer and imported into your editing software. If you want to go even more professional, you can even use a cage. It'll make the whole setup a bit heavier, which is not necessarily a bad thing, as having a heavier setup is actually easier and more comfortable to hold in your hand. And it will also make all your videos even more stable. And lastly, get yourself a gimbal if you're someone who likes having a lot of movement in your videos. This will help you eliminate the need to manually stabilize every single video later in post, and it will actually save you a lot of time when editing. Not to mention that if you want to record videos in ProRes RAW, you don't have any internal stabilization, so having a gimbal is kind of a must here. There are a lot of gimbals out there and honestly you cannot go wrong with any of them. Just get the one that is cheaper or the one that you like the most. For me, I really prefer to have a simple run-and-gun setup, so I don't really like using gimbals that much. I prefer to always have my phone with me in my pocket, and I actually think that's the beauty of shooting on an iPhone. It's something that you always carry with you anyway, and having such a small yet powerful camera that's always with you, always ready to use, is just such a game changer. So I really like to keep it simple, just my iPhone, an ND filter and an SSD, and that's basically it. Next, we have the BlackMagic Camera App, and this is probably the #1 thing that will help you turn your iPhone into a cinema camera. So let's go ahead and learn how to use it and what are the best settings, but before we do that, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Artlist for sponsoring this video. If you're not new to this channel, you probably know that I've been using Artlist ever since I started making videos. Artlist is literally an all-in-one platform with everything that you might need as a creator. That's where I get all my music and sound effects. They also have an incredible library of stock footage, templates, voiceover generators, and the best AI, image and video generators all in one place. Here we have all the latest AI models like the Nano Banana Pro and the new Klingo one that was just released, and that is currently the most realistic and advanced AI model, where you can literally create videos simply by writing a prompt. Some of this stuff looks insanely good and realistic, and having all these amazing tools in just one place is honestly mind-blowing. I'm not really a fan of AI content, but I still think that if used in the right way, for example to create something that would require us to have some serious skills, or to achieve something that was simply not possible before, then I think it's a great way to improve our workflow and make our job as creators faster, easier, and even just help us take things to the next level. So if you wanted to try it out but didn't have a chance yet, now might be the perfect time, as Artlist is now doing their biggest and only sale of the year for a limited time. And there's also a link in the description that will give you 3 extra months for free on any subscription. So go ahead and check it out, and thank you Artlist for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the video and talk about the BlackMagic Camera App. The BlackMagic Camera App allows you to control all your settings like the different lenses, the different frame rates, the shutter speed. Ideally you'd want to keep your shutter speed at 1 over double the frame rate. So if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, you want to keep your shutter speed at 1 over 48, as this will help you get that natural cinematic motion blur. Next we have the ISO, and here I suggest keeping it as low as possible, anywhere between 100 and 200. Then we have the white balance and tint, and here you can leave it in auto and let it do its job. The camera will then lock the white balance once it starts recording, and this is probably the easiest way to use it, or you can manually put it somewhere around 5600 Kelvin. Next we have the internal stabilization. I like to keep mine set to either standard or cinematic. One thing to keep in mind is that if you record videos in ProRes RAW, the internal stabilization will be off by default as discussed previously. And then we have the LUTs preview, which is by far my favorite feature in this app, as it allows you to preview the footage when shooting, and this way you know exactly how it's going to look like later in post when you actually apply that LUT to your videos. This is honestly such a game changer as it not only allows you to get the best cinematic results, but it also allows you to nail the perfect exposure every single time before you even start shooting. You get a perfectly balanced image without it being too overexposed or too underexposed, and you already know which LUT works best on each clip, which makes editing so much easier and faster. You also have all the different codecs like the ProRes 422, the ProRes RAW, and the OpenGate resolution, which again you can only get by using this third-party app. So as you can see, unlike the native camera app, the BlackMagic app has a lot of professional tools that you only get on higher-end cinema line cameras, so I highly suggest downloading it and using it on a daily basis. And the best thing about it is that it's absolutely free, which is mind-blowing. This app really turns your iPhone into a cinema camera when it comes to shooting videos. So again, use the BlackMagic Camera app, record all your videos in ProRes 422 in Apple Log 2, as this will give you the best image quality and the flexibility to color grade your videos to get a more cinematic result. If you want to check out my cinematic LUT pack designed specifically for the iPhone, you can check the first link in the description. These LUTs will allow you to get the same cinematic look that I get in all my videos in just a few seconds. And yeah, I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. I'll be doing a lot more videos on the 17 Pro Max over the next months, so if you're interested in that, make sure to stick around. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Take care.